My name is Jessica Hale, and I'm 59 years old. I've never been the kind of woman who holds grudges. Life's thrown plenty of dirt my way over the years, and I've always just rolled up my sleeves, wiped it off, and kept moving. But this time it stuck. I was 26 when I had my son, Ryan. His father was gone by the time Ryan was in third grade. Walked out one night and never looked back. No goodbye, no closure, just me, a mortgage, and a boy with wide eyes and a broken heart. I did everything for that kid. I worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day and stocking shelves overnight. I skipped meals so he could have seconds. I turned down vacations, nice clothes, and even dating, just so I could be the mother he deserved. Not once did I ever complain. My reward was in the little things, watching him sleep peacefully. His smile when he made the honor roll, his nervous laugh the day I dropped him off at college. I thought I'd raised a good man. Then he brought Madeline into our lives. She was beautiful, no denying that, petite, always polished, with perfectly styled blonde hair and the kind of confidence that felt rehearsed. The first time we met, she hugged me too tightly, smiled too widely, and complimented my cozy little home in a tone that didn't match her words. Something about her didn't sit right, but I kept it to myself, for Ryan's sake. At first, she was polite, kept her distance, made jokes about being new to this whole family thing, and said she wanted to include me in wedding planning. But that quickly faded. As soon as the rings were exchanged and the honeymoon tan wore off, her real self emerged, subtle jabs, constant corrections, and a cold wall she built between Ryan and me. I'd invite them over for Sunday dinner, and she'd decline with a fake smile. We're doing clean eating now, Jess. You know how carbs make Ryan sluggish. Carbs? My lasagna raised that boy. Still, I swallowed my pride. Again, I bit my tongue when she posted online about how she and Ryan built their life from scratch, even though I'd given them $40,000 from my retirement to help with their down payment. I stayed quiet when she redecorated their entire house without asking for my input, despite me co-signing the mortgage. Then came the day that changed everything. Ryan invited me over to their new home. "We want you to see it, Mom," he said. "You helped make this happen." I wore my best blouse, brought a homemade apple pie, and practiced pretending everything was fine in the car mirror. I wanted to be proud. I wanted to believe this was a celebration. When I rang the doorbell, Madeline opened the door. She looked me up and down, lingered on my Payless shoes, and sighed. "Oh, good," she said with a smirk. "The maid is here." I laughed nervously, waiting for the punchline. It never came. She held out a pair of rubber gloves. "Can you start with the guest bathroom? I just haven't had the time." I stood there, stunned. Pie in one hand, gloves in the other. My ears were burning. I looked at Ryan, who was sitting on the couch, typing away on his phone. He looked up, saw the scene, and said nothing. Not a word. That silence? It pierced deeper than anything Madeline ever said. It told me everything I needed to know. In that moment, I wasn't his mother. I wasn't the woman who raised him, fed him, sacrificed decades for him. I was just convenient, disposable, an older woman who could be used for money, credit, and cleaning, and cast aside when it no longer fit the image. I excused myself, barely holding back tears. I left the pie on their kitchen counter, still warm. The drive home was a blur. I kept replaying the moment, not because I was hurt, though I was, but because I didn't recognize my own son anymore. Where had I gone wrong? Where was the boy who used to draw me pictures with "I love you, Mom" in crayon? The teenager who once skipped prom to stay home and cooked dinner with me when I was sick? That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, holding the gloves Madeline gave me. I stared at them for hours, and that's when something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with clarity. They wanted a maid. Fine. I'd clean up this mess they called a marriage, but not with bleach and gloves. I was going to scrub her perfect little world from top to bottom, the kind of clean that leaves no trace behind, the kind you don't recover from. After that night, I didn't answer Ryan's calls for almost a week, not because I was trying to punish him, but because I didn't trust myself to speak without breaking. Not from anger, from heartbreak. Every time my phone buzzed with his name, I'd stare at it and wonder if maybe this time he'd say something real. Maybe apologize. maybe realize how deep the cut was. But when I finally opened one of his messages, it wasn't regret. It was this. Hey mom, Madeline's throwing a brunch this Sunday. Can you come a little early and help set up? No, sorry about what happened. No, Madeline didn't mean it. Just come help. Like I was the help. I sat in silence, the message blinking back at me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry. I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt calm. The kind of calm that comes when a storm starts to build in your bones. I typed back, sure, I'll be there. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to beg for respect anymore. I was going to take it back. I spent the next few weeks doing what I've always done best, working quietly. Only this time, it wasn't for someone else's success. It was for my own payback. First, I started with their home. Madeline was constantly showing off their dream house on Instagram. Clean white kitchen, modern furniture, gold-accented faucets. She filmed everything like she lived in a magazine. Except I co-signed that loan. Let me repeat that. When the bank refused to approve Ryan and Madeline's mortgage without a stronger credit profile, I stepped in. Ryan told me it was temporary, just to get through underwriting. I didn't realize until later that not only was my name on the deed, but I'd also wired $40,000 of my retirement savings for the down payment. It's a loan, Mom, Ryan had said. Except there were no terms, no payments, no papers, just a mother trying to help her son build a life. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two, trusting them not to forget. I started gathering documents, pulling my copies of wire transfers, emails, mortgage statements. I reached out to a real estate lawyer who owed me a favor. I asked her a simple question. If I co-own a house with someone and I want out, what happens? She said, you can sell your share. It's messy, but it's legal. Messy was fine with me. Meanwhile, I did a little more digging into Madeline's world. Turns out, her influencer lifestyle was more fragile than she let on. Most of her content was sponsored, cleaning products, skincare, home goods. She had followers, yes, but her brand relied on an image, calm, elegant, in control. One whisper of drama could crumble her whole house of cards, especially if that whisper came with receipts. I created a burner email, a new IG account, just a backup, in case I needed to speak without using my voice. Then came the fun part. I hired a professional cleaning company. High-end, highly rated. Paid for a full month of service at their address. When the company asked whose name to list on the welcome note, I smiled and said, please make it out to the real maid of the house. The Sunday brunch came quickly. I arrived 10 minutes early, just like they asked. I wore my nicest blouse again. This time not for approval, but for closure. Madeline was fluttering around in a silk dress, barking at the caterer over olives. Oh, you're here, she said flatly when she saw me. I smiled sweetly and handed her an envelope. She raised an eyebrow. What's this, Jess? A resignation letter. I turned to Ryan, who had just walked in from the kitchen. I brought one for you too, sweetheart, I said, handing him his envelope. Since you never bothered to read the last one I gave you. He frowned. What's this about? Just paperwork, I said, echoing his words from a year ago. You said you liked paperwork. They both opened the folders. Silence. Then confusion. Then panic. Because inside were copies of my bank transfers, my co-sign agreement, the legal notice from my lawyer, and, most satisfyingly, a notice of intent to sell my stake in the home. Madeline's jaw dropped. Ryan looked like he'd been hit by a truck. You're selling the house, he stammered. No, I said calmly. My share of the house. The one you used me to get. But that's going to ruin everything, Madeline gasped. The brunches, the brand. Our mortgage depends on that deal. I shrugged. Maybe next time. Don't call the woman who bought your countertops the maid. The look on Madeline's face, half confusion, half disbelief, was almost poetic. For a woman who curated every detail of her life for her followers, she had no clue what was about to happen. It was as if I just pulled the curtains open on a stage she didn't realize I owned. Ryan blinked down at the papers in his hands like he was trying to read another language. Mom, this can't be real. You wouldn't actually. I would, I said quietly. And I am. Madeline scoffed. You're bluffing. You can't just sell half a house. That's not how this works. I turned and looked her in the eye for the first time in weeks. Sweetheart, when you're part of a legally binding mortgage and the co-owner of a property, you absolutely can. She opened her mouth again, but I cut her off. And if you're going to call someone the maid, make sure she's not holding the deed to your kingdom. The caterer awkwardly cleared her throat and asked if she should continue setting up the buffet. Ryan tried to usher me into the kitchen, suddenly full of fake warmth. Mom, can we talk privately? But I was done with secrets. I looked around at the carefully arranged living room. Pale rugs, gold-framed art prints, the bless this mess sign that Madeline clearly thought was quirky and ironic, and realized how fake it all was. It looked perfect, but the foundation was hollow. Because I built it. With my name. With my money. With my trust. I gave Ryan a second envelope. This one's for you. He opened it and paled. Inside were screenshots of the bank account he opened in my name, one I never authorized. He used my identity to boost his credit, so they could qualify for an additional line of home improvement credit. He'd withdrawn money and never told me. I had gotten a weird piece of mail from the bank weeks earlier that didn't make sense at the time. Now it made too much sense. That's identity fraud, I said evenly. You used me. Without my consent. That's a felony, Ryan. He looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Later that week, I met with my lawyer again. Are you sure you want to go through with this? She asked. It's going to rattle their world. I smiled. That's the idea. I didn't want to destroy my son, but I did want to wake him up, shake him hard enough that he'd feel the weight of the choices he made. And Madeline? She needed to learn that the real world doesn't bend to hashtags. I sold my share of the house. Not to Ryan and Madeline. I gave them a chance first. They offered me a laughable amount. Family discount, Madeline had the nerve to say. Instead, I sold it to a local property investor who specialized in buying into joint ownership properties. They had zero interest in being accommodating. Their plan? Renovate the house, rent it out, and eventually buy the other half, or force a court-ordered petition sale. The best part? This investor was also one of Madeline's biggest content rivals in the local social media space. She'd once posted a passive-aggressive Instagram story mocking this woman's budget bathroom designs. I remembered because she said it while I was folding laundry in the background. Poetic justice came dressed in real estate contracts. Once the sale went through, the new co-owner sent Madeline and Ryan an official letter, giving them 90 days to either buy her out, sell the house, or vacate. Madeline freaked out. She posted cryptic quotes like, "Some people don't support your journey because they're bitter they aren't on it, and family isn't always blood." Her followers started asking questions. Where was her kitchen content? Why had she deleted all the My Dream Home highlights? Then came the real storm. I anonymously emailed 3 of her biggest sponsors with polite, factual information, screenshots of the mortgage documents, a short description of the fraud committed by her household, and a note that I had legal ownership of the house they were promoting in her videos. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't even have to. Just the truth was enough. By the end of the week, 2 major brands had dropped her. She posted a teary video about privacy violations and toxic in-laws, but by then, her perfect image had started to crack. Meanwhile, Ryan called me again and again. He left voicemails, rambling apologies, panicked explanations, even one where he cried and said, "I didn't know how to say no to her, Mom. I thought if I kept the peace, it would all work out." I didn't answer for days. When I finally picked up, I was sitting on my front porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sun come up. I let him speak. He begged for forgiveness. He said he felt like he'd betrayed everything I gave him. When he finished, I said, "Ryan, I didn't need you to be perfect. I just needed you to remember who I am." There was a long silence. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he said. "I know," I replied. "But now you have to fix it. Without me. They say revenge is best served cold. But mine was calculated, deliberate, and legal. Served with signed documents, shredded reputations, and a glass of chilled lemonade. It didn't need screaming or slamming doors. It needed consequences. After selling my share of the house, I returned to something I hadn't felt in years, peace. For so long, I had measured my worth through what I gave. to my job, to my son, to the people around me who never said, thank you. But now, I was done serving everyone else. Madeline and Ryan tried everything to stop the fallout. Ryan begged the investor to let them refinance and buy her out. The problem was they no longer qualified. Without my credit score and with the recent fraud on record, no bank wanted to touch them. Their entire house of cards came crashing down. Madeline held on longer than I thought she would. For weeks, she kept posting like nothing had changed, lighting candles, fluffing throw pillows, filming tutorials in carefully cropped corners of her home to hide the boxes piling up behind the camera. But her energy cracked. Her face looked tired. The comments got suspicious. Then her biggest sponsor, one who had built a whole campaign around authentic homemakers, pulled their contract quietly. I didn't gloat. I didn't leave snide comments or messages. I just watched the truth do what it always does, rise. About a month later, Ryan showed up at my door. I'll admit, I hesitated before opening it. But when I did, I barely recognized him. He looked worn down, like a man who finally realized the price of forgetting where he came from. He didn't bring flowers or a gift, just himself. I messed up, Mom, he said, voice thick. I don't even know where to start. I let him sit on the porch swing. We talked for over an hour. He told me Madeline had moved back in with her parents after they officially listed the house for sale under legal pressure. Their relationship wasn't over, but it was fractured. She's not bad, he said quietly, but she doesn't respect anyone unless there's something in it for her. And what about you? I asked. He looked at his hands. I didn't respect myself either. That, finally, was the answer I needed. We're rebuilding now, slowly. Not as mother and son on autopilot, but as adults choosing to understand one another. I made it clear that forgiveness isn't free. It takes time. Trust has to be earned. Ryan apologized again for the house, for the account in my name, for standing by while his wife called me the maid, like I was some disposable help. He said, I thought you'd always be there, no matter how badly we treated you. I said, that was your first mistake. A few weeks ago, I did something small but symbolic. I mailed a card to Madeline. No words, just a simple printed note. You once called me the maid. You were half right, because I cleaned up your mess and left without a trace. I don't know if she read it. I don't care, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure. And the truth is, I didn't burn bridges. I just stopped being the bridge everyone walked over. I still live in my modest home, cozy, warm, full of memories that no influencer account can fake. I garden again. I sleep better. And I've even started planning the trip I postponed 15 years ago when Ryan needed help with college tuition. Italy. Solo. The woman Madeline dismissed as the maid is finally taking her own damn honeymoon. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.